Digital Marketing Radio, episode 123. What are the traits of a good social brand?
DigitalMarketingRadio.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by Aweber. Build your email list, engage your subscribers, do email the right way. I've arranged a special deal for all Digital Marketing Radio listeners, and that's a 60-day free trial with the email marketing software provider I use, Aweber. Lock in your 60-day free trial, plus view a video that I've recorded on the 3 reasons why I use their service at aweber.com/DMR. So just go to aweber.com/DMR to get started today.
The big interview with David Bain.
Now, we're recording this episode on Blab, and I'm pleased to be joined by someone that helped me the first time I used Blab. He's got more than 25 years experience in marketing, having assisted companies like Coca Cola, American Express, and Procter Gamble in the past. Welcome to DMR, Timm McVaigh.
Hi, David. How are you? I've got to say that is very impressive.
And it all goes downhill from there. That's it. Well, you can find Tim over at brandideas.com.au. So, Tim, in the future, will it be possible for brands to be a success without social media, do you think?
Look, I think there is always demand. Like, people have needs. So there's always going to be, I need something, I go look for it, I find it, I get to buy that product. So, yeah, look, I think at the end of the day, there will be brands who don't do social, don't reach out to their customer, but basically hang their shingle and people find them. But they'll be harder to find. I think it's the brands that actually develop conversations and relationships and are the first thing that people think of that will end up being successful. That nowadays we used to think of as logo as that thing that would stay in someone's memory, stay in someone's mind, as the first place that I go to for them when I'm thinking about the thing I need. But I think now it'll be the relationship that I have that trumps that. That if I know somebody through their social, through my social experience with them, I'm more likely to trust them, I'm more likely to value them, and therefore I'm more likely to jump to them first.
So what would you say then are some of the traits of a good social brand?
Look, I think a good social brand, for a start, listens more than it speaks. That social listening is actually the catalyst for a relationship in the social realm. So essentially brands that are listening to their Twitter feed, listening to their social media feed, and then responding to that in a positive light, offering a kind of a level of customer service that customers aren't used to yet. When you have a brand that actually responds to something that they might have mentioned in Twitter and they're Johnny on the spot, I think that customers get that sort of delight and surprise that A, their voice is being heard, two, that this relationship that they started by following the brand for a start, I think a like or a follow becomes that permission for brands to enter their world. So now when someone likes a brand, it's actually saying, I give you permission to speak to me, to enter my social realm. And especially in Facebook, I think that's especially true. I think there's a lot more noise in Twitter, but at the same time, when people say, I like you or I want to follow you, they're saying, talk to me, engage me, allow me to see you in my day. And,
okay. No, I love that description that you started off with. It's about listening, because a lot of brands obviously think it's about just registering their profiles on these social networks and then broadcasting and not even interacting at all, just saying, bah, this is what I do. And
this is what I do. And it's like this sort of constant regurgitation of us. And that's not what people use their social media for. They use it to be informed, but to have a conversation. Now, each of those platforms allows the consumer to have a voice, and when you allow them to have that voice with you as a brand, and it doesn't matter whether you're a huge corporation or a small business, you enter into almost a conversation and a relationship that is a little bit more intimate than just me telling you my story, my product, my this, my sale. So I think that's how it changes. Yeah.
One thing that I particularly don't like to do on Twitter, for example, because I'm probably most active on Twitter as a social network, is follow just brand icons. I prefer following individuals. So, I mean, is it right for a brand to try and interact as their brand on these kind of social networks, or would it be better actually just to have individuals representing that brand instead?
I think so. When I started on Twitter, basically I started on Twitter to get a free piece of software. I thought, oh, this is cool. I just have to tweet something. I get a free piece of software. That's pretty good. They would have got a tweet to an audience of 0, but I got my piece of software. But I joined it, and I started off, I put my logo up there. I'm a logo designer. I design logos. That's sort of my starting point for most of my relationships with customers. And so for a long time, I was my little light bulb logo, and that was cool. I was kind of happy with that. But then I started to get involved in Twitter chats, in actually talking about social media and learning about social media from other social media experts who were hosting these Twitter chats. And for me, that was like a light bulb moment for me in terms of, oh, wow, Twitter is actually about people and not about this sort of just information people putting out and click this link. This is my product. This is the sandwich I ate today, kind of stuff that you were seeing on Twitter. Instead, it started to be a conversation where you got to know people within the community of Twitter. And so that really opened a door. So when I started to get involved in that, Pam Moore, who runs Get Real Chat, kind of encouraged me to put my photo up as my face, like put your face up. We want to know who you are. You're saying all these interesting things, Tim. We want to get to know you. So, and so that was kind of almost like a step out in courage, kind of feeling brave enough to say, okay, I'm going to put my face out there as my business. Normally we've talked in, here is my logo, love my logo, identify with my logo. Yeah. But instead, when we're involved in social, it's about, I want to see, I want to connect with eyes. I want to see a smile. I want to know that there is actually a person in this transaction between posts. And I think that's where it started on Twitter for me, was realizing that the transactions and the people I wanted to follow were people rather than brands. So even though I might be interested in what certain brands were doing, I always found that I connected with the people, and they're the people who I would constantly follow. If I had to drop off people from my follower list because I'd kind of filled my Twitter quota, I'd be dropping brands off because they were just logos. So I figured they were more likely to just be posting ads rather than posting content that was meaningful. So I think that's what changed in that Twitterverse kind of relationship.
It's digital marketing in general has changed so much, hasn't it? I mean, I've been involved in it for 10 plus years now, actually, and that's before social media, and it was no one put their name, let alone their face, their photo forward to represent what they were doing. It was all about hiding behind a brand, and it's changed completely, but for the better in general, I think.
Yeah, I think companies could be faceless grey men and hide behind a logo, and that was, as long as they had an agency kind of putting out a voice and an image, it was all good. Whereas I think now there is that craving to know that the people who represent these companies, represent their products, are real people. They have values, and that those values are the things that customers can connect with.
Absolutely. I was talking to Phil Pallen recently, and he's a personal brand expert from the States, and I actually interviewed him for episode 121, which won't be, we're talking live now on the 24th of September, so that won't be published actually until the 29th. But he was saying, yes, it's so important to get quality, great photos of yourself on your website. And then I was saying to him, well, my avatar is actually a cartoon image of me. Is that okay? He was saying, is that okay? Do you agree with that?
Look, I think, David, you're a good-looking rooster. You could
I wouldn't go that far.
you could I think that an illustration is kind of cool, but again, it doesn't connect the way a photo does. It's not as real as a photo. So at the same time, you're getting that balance between, well, here is an image that people can grasp hold of. It's easily recognized. It won't age. It's I think I often think that Twitter photos are a bit like the Dorian Gray in reverse, in that the Twitter photo stays the same, and I get older. So I guess there's that iconic thing of having the illustration to be a good icon. At the same time, I found that just, I'm going to get a nice photo. I'm going to put it up. And it's nice. People go, oh, you look nice. I like your photo. You get a bit of feedback. And that can't be a bad thing.
It's always a bit scary meeting someone in person who's got a Twitter photo that's maybe 7 years old. And then
So, well, maybe an update. So, I would encourage people to at least every couple of years get a fresh set of face shots and put them out there and let everyone know, hey, this is my new photos. What do you think? And that engages people in conversation. People get to see you and re-recognize you again.
That's a great point. Yeah. So in terms of brand voice, if you've got a brand persona, and then you've got loads of people interacting on behalf of the brand, should those people actually be using this persona, this voice of the company, and be consistent with the tone? Or is it more right to actually just have their own personality and be more natural when they're interacting on behalf of the company?
Again, I think it becomes a case of there is a brand voice, and it's okay to have a corporate voice and set up a corporate account that sits above the people within the company, sits above your employee advocates. I guess what you're essentially trying to create is a brand, and underneath that brand are people who represent it as employee advocates. And each of those people will have a different tone and a different voice, and we accept that from people. We're not all cookie cutter models of ourselves. But if the tone of their conversation is consistent, in other words, they all know that what they're trying to say across, to meet a goal, then I think it's okay that there's different voices in that, as long as, I guess, they're singing in harmony. It's like good music, that if it's in harmony, it sounds really good, and it pleases people. If it's discordant, then it's not pleasing, and it becomes upsetting. So it's good if everyone's on the same page and sharing at least the same goals. They might do it from a different perspective, but at least they're trying to aim for the same achieve the same thing.
So what about if you're a really small company, if maybe you're actually starting your own consultancy or something like that? Do you think you're always better to call that your own personal name and lead with that, and that's your brand? Or do you think it's actually better to position yourself as being called something else and perhaps give yourself room to grow then?
Yeah, I found, like, at least with Twitter, being Timm McVaigh at Brand Ideas tells a complete story. So people know my name, people know the company I work for. So people have always kind of at least given me good feedback that, at Brand Ideas, I get your name, I get your business name, and it defines me as my niche. So people instantly know my niche, they know and they attach that with my name. So I think using both those things isn't a bad idea. It humanizes you, but it also attaches you to the business that you're in. So for a small business, I think having, I'm Fred Jones at Fred Jones Plumbing is a good thing. I'm Fred Jones at Happy Plumbing is the same thing. Is that if you can bond at least, you with the company, then there's that association. I know Fred's at Happy Plumbing. I'll give him a call.
Okay, so as long as your name's associated with it, it's the right thing to do. But if you just call yourself Happy Plumbing and don't even
Happy Plumbing, there's that disconnect between the person, and I think that's what people are finding more difficult on social, is that you want to have a connection with the person. You want to know that there is a real person behind that. And so when I follow you, I know that I'm and mention you that there is a real person connecting with that you're not a bot. I guess there's so many ways of people automating lots of accounts that aren't real, that the accounts that I want to follow, the accounts that I want to connect with, I want to know that there's a real person managing them and being them.
So you mentioned Twitter quite a bit as a social network. Are you
Twitter is probably my passion. Yeah.
Are you active in a few other places, or maybe?
Yeah. Look, I'm active on all of them in different ways. So I guess each platform has its own personality as far as I can see. In that Instagram is about the visual me. So I try and share stuff that is mostly about my life, but things that I see of beauty and add value to that. So it's all sort of photography things I like to share on a visual level. If I'm on Facebook, and I have a business account on Facebook and I have my personal account, I've got to say that because people have connected with me on Twitter as a person, they're more likely to want to friend me on Facebook on my personal account. So at some point I actually had to make that decision. Okay, everyone wants to know, like the people that I've met, my Twitter friends are now wanting to be my Facebook friends. And so I've kind of opened that door into my Facebook world. So, which is a bit, I guess it took me a little while to adjust to that. It's a personal account, but it's also, it's a business account or a social media account as well. So I think that's one of those things. You can either say, look, I'm trying to keep family and friends in one place. It'd be great if you could join up on my business account. But I found that was too much negotiation. The people who really want to know me on Facebook already I kind of trust and know. And so I let them into that world as well. So it's these steps of courage in social media. Now, certainly if I was Coca Cola, I'm not, and the managing director of Coca Cola, I'm not going to let every person who knows me jump into perhaps my personal account, and that's where you would manage that differently. But at this stage, I'm not a huge corporation, so I don't have to worry about that.
I don't really like using Facebook. Is that wrong as a digital marketer, do you think?
I think that I actually find Facebook has now become almost, if you manage the algorithm, I find Facebook a really quick way to scan the news of the world, scan the web by almost having trained it to feed the things that I am interested in. So I actually find it kind of useful. I think the moment you click on something that you really didn't want to click on or something, and then you get all this stuff, the moment you've known that you've taught the algorithm something that you really didn't want to give it. So
maybe I should give it another go at some point.
Yeah, train the algorithm. Teach it to be your pet rather than yours.
No, that's good tips there. So so much has happened in digital marketing and social media over the last few years. Can you possibly predict what might happen over the next few years with regards to actually social platforms themselves? And if so, how might that impact brands and the way that brands communicate online?
Seth Godin recently wrote that the brand of the future is patient and consistent and connected and trusted. The new brand is based on the truth that only comes from experiencing the product, not just yelling about it. So I think he defined it again as this relational thing that we adapt our brands to our lives, and brands have to adapt to that. And so I think that the future of that will be if I could really jump into the future, it's where brands become predictive, that products use AI to really provide their service before I knew I needed it, or at the moment I needed it, so that they get a sense of that. I guess I give enough detail of my own personal habits away that the brand learns me enough to service me without me having to demand it. And so I think that's really where I see the future of the brand relationship and the customer, that AI and algorithms, like I guess much of what I said about Facebook, that if you can give Facebook enough information, it will actually serve you quite well. It'll give you the information that you're looking for before you knew you needed it. So I get lots of good social media commentary, good social media feeds. It's giving me the kind of information about the people that I like to follow. And so that becomes a natural kind of extension of my relationship with the product, that, wow, it's actually serving me.
Do you think people will get a bit scared by this prospect?
I do. I think that, we all think we're fairly private beings, but I think at the same time we all know that we share a lot of data that is already being shared. Like what I tell brands I'm interested in gets catalogued. What Google has a pretty good sense of what I like and the places I like to go, and what if I'm researching something, they've got a pretty good idea of if I'm thinking about my next holiday to somewhere. It's surprisingly how good the ads become about certain areas.
It's like 15 years ago or so when shops started bringing out these cards to actually give you bonus points, obviously, if you bought something from them, but they tracked what you bought, and every message that you got after that was more personalized. So I suppose it's an evolved version of that.
It's that kind of thing. And then I guess being able to sort of manage big data in ways where it becomes a service. It's like, I don't think anyone hates the fact that their iPhone tracks their location and allows them to use that information to enhance their experience of using their iPhone. So, I mean, certainly if you're worried about it, you switch it off. But when it becomes transparent, it becomes a service, and then people use that service quite naturally. So I think that's where you have to trust the brand. The brand has to make it of value to you to allow that kind of relationship and trust to evolve. But when it does, then you as a customer feel more deeply satisfied. You as a brand or a supplier achieve better goals, better sales, because you're naturally fitting into your customers' lives. So it becomes I guess, a symbiotic relationship.
I like that quote,
actually. Future.
What you said there, when it becomes transparent, it becomes a service. I think that's something to think about. And if you do deliver that value, then you can get away with actually taking a lot of information from your customers. I was just looking at the video here. For audio listeners, we're actually recording this in video as well, live in Blab. But it looks like we've got exactly the same background behind us.
Yeah. Mine's probably a little bit plasticky, but yeah, I think we planned that, didn't we? We said, okay, we'll make sure our backgrounds kind of work across the screen.
Absolutely. You didn't get the message about the green top, but the background's good.
I'm sorry.
Well, tell you what, let's segue into the second section of our discussion. So that focuses more on your thoughts on where digital marketing's been and where it's heading. So starting off with
software I couldn't live without.
So what software do you currently use in your business that if someone took away from you, it would significantly impact your marketing success?
Okay, well, I'm a designer, so I have to go Adobe Suite as my go-to app. Now, I know that's a fairly hardcore kind of production tool for graphic designers rather than a social media tool or a research tool. But for me, I think in pictures. So Photoshop, Illustrator are my go-to places to think and create. So, yeah, I couldn't live with those. I'd have
And
to go back to pen
do
and
you use
paper.
do you use Adobe Edition as well?
No, not so much as on a writing level. No, so
Because that's what a lot of podcasters use to edit their sound.
I'll,
I quite
I'll
like Audacity, but that's the only reason that one of the reasons I don't get it is because I don't want to get sidetracked into using all their different services, and I don't think it's as valuable when you get just the one service from them. So I
yeah.
don't
Look,
know.
I think cloud's been an interesting experiment. I feel like there are certainly a lot of new uh, pieces of software that have been developed that are probably more web friendly than the Titanic that is Photoshop, the Titanic that is the Adobe product. They've been around forever, and so I think there are new kids on the block that are doing things that are quite exciting. At the same time, I'm an old bloke. You kind of go with the hammer that you used 10 years ago. Still hammers a nail pretty well. So you tend to pick up the tools that you've used first and then play with the new kids and experiment with those. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
I've still got old software years ago. You'll know this name, Macromedia.
oh yeah.
So
I've,
I've got old fireworks and other software that I was quite comfortable using. And just for the basic occasional thing that I use, I don't see any reason to actually get anything else.
Yeah, I've still got a couple of old computers that sit there just because they're almost like time capsules of tools that I just wouldn't have if I went the upgrade path with them. So
Absolutely,
they're little time capsules of useful tools.
So are you an Apple fan rather than actually a Windows fan?
Yeah. I've my first Mac was Apple. I had a Mac 2 was my first computer. I bought what was a $2,000 hard drive for 200 megabytes of memory or something.
Wow,
and
that's just
started
nuts. And you can have a couple of gigs in your pocket easily now. It's incredible.
Yeah, I weep when I think back. But at the same time, people said you'll never fill it. So
exactly. And I downloaded a video that I'd recorded the other day actually on YouTube just today, and it was more than 1 gig, just the one video.
Yeah, just frightening.
It is. So here's
it's really cool.
Another slightly more challenging question. So what piece of software don't you use, but you've heard good things about, and you intend to try at some point in the near future?
Look, I think some of the analytics tools for social, I tend to use, say, Twitter analytics rather than go to, say, Sprout Social or some of the bigger sort of analytic platforms, partly because the $30 a month kind of fee, I'm not sure how much value I'll get out of those relationships, but I keep hearing good things about a couple of those sort of analytics tools.
Do you schedule your tweets as well, or some of them?
No, look, I've got to say I'm pretty transparent on my Twitter platform for myself. I do get clients and teach them how to schedule their social media, just because that way it's not as daunting. It frees, if you can do a couple of hours, you can at least share good information. But for me, I'm pretty transparent. When I'm on social, I'm on social. When I'm not, I'm not. So I've found that for me, people then know that I'm around, that I'm, when I put something out there, I get people talking back to me because they know that I'm actually listening at that point in time.
Yeah,
if I'm not there, then I'm not around. Don't talk to me, kind of thing.
I think that's great. I think Twitter's a very personal tool, or the more personal you use it, the higher value you can get out of it. I schedule 3 tweets a week, actually, which is just when I have a new episode coming out, and just when I share a quote about that episode as well, and a tool about it as well. But apart from that, I'm on it all the time, and I'm interacting, and it's just me. So it's partly just to make sure that I do get the tweet out at the right time when the episode comes out. But and I use Buffer for that, and that's a nice free tool to use. But apart from that, I don't enjoy really interacting on something like Hootsuite. I just go to the native tools like yourself.
Yeah, I actually find I'm a bit old school too. I like the Twitter app itself. I find Hootsuite and just that the windows become a bit frantic, that you're trying to monitor so many sort of things that I find it almost information overload. I'd rather focus on, okay, these are the at replies and this is the stream, and live in the moment rather than have 50 things happening at once and monitoring keywords and all that kind of stuff. Although, sometimes it's important to do that. And certainly in some Twitter chats, I've had multiple things happening just to sort of see what's happening. So it's one of those things you kind of got to work the moment rather than try and have value in that moment rather than just have all this information coming at you. I always find that too much information just clouds your thinking.
Yes, you don't want it to become too monotonous either. You want to be enjoying interacting and not feeling that it's a mundane task you have to do. Okay, but you mentioned Adobe Audition and a couple of other tools there, so I'll include links to that in the show notes at digitalmarketingradio.com. But moving on to...
I wish I would have.
So I'd like you to look back in the very first day that you were involved in trying to market a business online. What didn't you do so well? What do you wish that you would have done differently?
I wish I would have probably stepped out of my small business faster. There's been a few times where kind of growth happened really quickly, and that's where instead of perhaps focusing on the job at hand, but also trying to manage the growth in a better way, so that you brought people in at that point. That's where you expansion could have happened probably quicker. So for me, I think that it's that being a one-man band, you tend to be able to say, I can do it all. There are times where I would have rather brought someone in, being able to flatten the workload, and therefore probably created a bit more growth. But that would have meant stepping out of a few comfort zones. So I think it's that balance between I like what I have and then saying, no, I want more. I want to expand that. And that means bringing more people in, putting in all those processes to manage those people. And that's always a juggle, isn't it? It's easier to manage yourself than manage others at times.
So I was also thinking, as in Michael Gerber's words, you wish you would have worked on the business rather than actually in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that nails it.
Okay, moving on to
the this or that round.
So this is the quick response round. 10 quick questions and just 2 rules here. Try not to think about the answer too much, and you're only allowed to say the word both on one occasion. Ready to go?
Only allowed to say the word
both on one occasion.
Both.
So
okay.
It's this or that. So it'll be okay once we get going.
I'll get it. I'm sure.
All right. Email or Twitter?
Twitter.
Audio or video?
Video.
Affiliates or display advertising?
Display.
Facebook or Google+?
Facebook.
Online press releases or one-on-one relations?
One-on-one relations.
Paid search or SEO?
SEO.
Email contact form or telephone number?
Contact form, I think.
Website or app?
Website.
Social subscriber or email subscriber?
Social subscriber, I think.
And local marketing or global marketing?
Global.
You didn't need your both there. I don't think there was one that I can actually pinpoint that you particularly struggled with.
I'd happily choose one over the other, I think.
Oh, okay. That's a bit frustrating. I usually dig into the
I'm
one answer,
sorry. I'm
dig
sorry.
into the one answer that someone struggled with, but you didn't struggle with anything. It was fairly obvious you're going to go with Facebook one-on-one relations. Was it SEO over paid search as well? Was it?
Yeah, I think SEO. I'm not a great fan of paying anything for anything. So
Have you got some Scottish roots as well?
perhaps. Yeah, so I think if you can maximize a service by putting time and talent into it, then do that rather than pay for reach. So.
The $10,000 question.
If I was to give you $10,000 and you had to spend it over the next few days on a single thing to grow your business, what would you spend it on, and how would you measure success?
I think I'd spend $10,000 on creating a mini movie. So I'd actually create something that was epic in its proportion and minimal in its budget. So $10,000 for a movie isn't great, but I think that would be a fun thing to do. Two, I think it would have legs. It could tell a story, and now I think video is the new reading. So I think people respond to video in a visceral kind of way. So I that's where I'd put my $10,000.
And would you just publish it on YouTube?
I'd put it. Oh, well, I guess I would then put it on YouTube and then promote the hell out of it through my social channels.
And would you have any particular call to action at the end of it?
I think for me, I'm happy if it's about my business, it would be to change someone else's life with that rather. So that the call to action would be something that is transformational in watching the video for their business. Hopefully by gifting that to them, they respond to me. Okay,
so it's more the ripple effect rather than actually try and measure the financial value.
Like call now, call me, point to me, I think is old school marketing. I think now new school marketing is, wow, you gifted me this amazing piece of information. Whatever was in this video transformed my business. I want more of you for that. So I think that is the real call to action now, is that when you give something of value, there's a reciprocity. People then want you to be involved more in their lives. So
how does a modern marketer who works in a firm and understands that approach sell that idea to their boss?
We're just giving stuff away. Well, yeah. I think what happens now is that if I make widgets and these widgets transform someone else's business life in a particular way, that story can be told. That you've got to find the thing that the widget does that is transformational, not necessarily the widget itself. Normally we'd say, buy my widget. I think you've got to say, buy my widget, because if you do, this happens in your life. So I think that's where the real magic happens for marketers, is that by telling the story of the story, and that's where it impacts on your customer's life, that you really get a sense of their of them wanting it then, rather than just buy my widget. I think, and it does this and it has 5 sprockets and not 2 sprockets, that kind of thing. I think that's where it transforms.
Yeah, great advice. It makes me think of a great speech, a TED Talk that talks about putting the why at the heart of everything, and most businesses have everything the wrong way around. But yeah, wonderful advice there. So, but the challenge with that wonderful advice is that we're moving on to
my number one takeaway.
So that means that you've got to think of another great piece of advice for a number one takeaway. So yeah, you've offered a lot of great advice in our conversation. So I mean, could you distill it down into an action step that our listeners need to take away and implement in their own businesses?
For sure. I'll come at it from a transformation of your branding process. So that if you were to take one thing away, is that you've got to transform your brand beyond logo and message and the thing that we do into the thing that it does for someone else. So, and that means having a conversation. That means allowing you to be the voice of that relationship. So I guess that's how I would have encapsulated everything that I've probably said today, is that social means that we become a person in a corporate world, and that corporate voice has to be more a person than just we are a company and we are changing the future. Insert company name, changing the future here isn't enough now. People want to know why you're changing the future and have a conversation on how can we help change the future with you.
And come along for the ride because they're passionate about that thing as well. Yeah. Great thought to leave us with. What's the best way for our audience to find out more about you and what you do?
Sure. My website is probably the easiest way to contact me, or contact me on Twitter at Brand Ideas. That's where I live. So happily at message me, or just say good day there, because I'd love to get to know you, and click follow me and I'll follow you back and get to know you through your stream. And that's always a great thing. I think when I really try and get to know as many people as I can. I actually spend time reading my stream just to get a sense of what it is that you share, and I can only recommend other people do that. It's not just broadcasting. It's not just this thing. There's actually conversations happening, and you can get to know people. Or on Blab now. Blab is awesome. So I think this is going to be my new home. Often.
Absolutely. Come and join us next time, because I'm recording this in Blab at the moment, and I'm sure I'll be recording it in future episodes as well. It really is an absolutely fantastic tool. Great. Okay. Well, if you like what you heard, dear listener, remember to subscribe to future episodes. So just go to digitalmarketingradio.com/iTunes on your Apple device. And for those of you on Android, the feed link is available on each episode page on digitalmarketingradio.com. And finally, I'm also now hosting a brand new live show every Friday called This Week in Organic, also on Blab. So head over to thisweekinorganic.com and it'll directly to the latest show that happens to be going on. But that's all for now. Until we meet again, adios. And thank you so much again, Tim.
Pleasure, David. Thank you. It's been great to experience